Tell them get ready this morning. Tell them get ready. Get ready. Get ready as you're seated this morning. Amen. What an honor it is. Oh, by the way, before we move on, can we just give it up for Lillian this morning? Come on. Leading that song. She's a freshman in high school. Come on. Well, about to be a sophomore. It was beautiful, Lillian. We're so proud of you. Thank you so much. And the rest of the worship team did great too. So we appreciate you guys, all you old vets too. Yeah, y'all did wonderful as well. Well, what an honor it is to have Global Servants with us this morning. Ronnie came to the school a couple years ago and preached for us. What a connection we've had. I just love this ministry. I love the heart of this ministry, what they're doing. And whenever I, as a pastor, whenever I bring a ministry in, I want you to know they've been vetted. There is a lot of trust in what's going on. And it's just the cream of the crop of what they're doing, the work that they're doing, the amount of money that is donated that gets straight into the mission field. They just do it right with the right heart. It's powerful work, and we're so grateful to be a part, so grateful for them to share. And I just want to say one more thing, and I'm going to bring you up. When you're a church planner and you start planning a church, God gives you a vision. And you take that vision. We showed up here, 10 years ago, me and my wife and 2 boys. That was it, with a vision from God. And we began to share that. I remember going into Julie Crow's insurance office to get insurance because the first insurance guy wouldn't call me back. And then I called CJ and Associates Insurance, and they had church insurance. And I went in there and I talked to Julie. I didn't know she was the owner of the company. Then I put CJ. Oh, I get it. Julie. All right. She was on vacation. I went in there and I began to share with them what we were doing. And we were having these vision meetings. And she flipped her calendar open and wrote the room where our vision meeting was on the calendar. And she says, I'm going to bring my husband and we're coming. And they showed up. And one of the things that you'll hear from time to time is that people will come and move and help and partner, and they're like, hey, we're helping you in your vision. But here's the thing that you realize. It's not my vision. It's God's vision. It's God's vision. And as you share God's vision, a seed gets planted in somebody else, and they begin to help you carry God's vision. And so I feel as a pastor and with our heart for this church and this community, that what we're doing is we're sharing and stewarding God's vision. And as we share that, it gets planted in other people and they begin to help us carry it. And then we do more and more and more. Look, there's a lot more than just 4 of us in this place today. Amen. If there was 4, we would worship God, but there's a lot more than that. God has multiplied that vision. And I say that because that's how I feel about Global Servants. They're carrying a vision from God to reach these other parts of the world. And although we can't maybe go there physically, although we might sometimes, we might take some trips, be there every day, what we can do is we can hear their vision this morning. And here's what I'm believing. Here was my prayer this morning as my eyes opened. I said, God, help us to partner with the vision. Give all of our people, not just the pastor. Come on, hear me this morning. It can't just be me that wants to partner. All of us have to want to partner. All of us have to want to be a part of that vision. So I just believe as they share God's vision that they're stewarding, he's going to open something in our heart. Something's going to be planted in our heart that says, yes, we want to help carry that vision this morning, Ronnie. We want to help that vision. We want to help that vision to reach those in Africa and Thailand. In Honduras now. I mean, it's exploding. It's multiplying. And so we're so grateful. So here's what I'm asking. Let your heart be open to this vision. Let your heart be open to this vision. And as they share it, let us just partner with it and help carry the vision. Amen. All right, I've said enough. Ronnie, come on up. Welcome Ronnie Brennan, everybody, from Global Servants this morning. Oh, you don't need this mic.
Well, good morning. It is such an honor, and I'm just excited about being back with you again. It's such a privilege and a pleasure to be back, and I want to share with you some of those who you may have been. How many here were here when I spoke in the school? Okay, you're going to hear some familiar stuff. You're going to see some familiar stuff, but there's people who don't know that I'm going to catch them up, okay? And so I just want you to enjoy this. I also want to introduce one of my coworkers here. One of my associates is Steve Birmingham. He's with us. He is our Director of Development, and he'll be meeting you at the table. And I'll introduce Melissa in here in a minute. We're not going to leave her out. But we're just so excited about being here and being a part of, and what you are a part of. Before I go any further, let me do a commercial too. On the table, there's an information card. There's ways that you can be a partner, a way you can be involved. If you just want more information, however, if you fill one of these cards out, you'll get one of these. This is a book by Dr. Mark Rutland called Of Kings and Prophets. It deals with spiritual authority speaking to secular power and using the image of the prophets and the kings and their encounters with each other. And so I would urge you to sign up one of those and get one of those books. And I couldn't think of a more appropriate time to be reading along those lines and the encounters that may be way ahead for us. But it's exciting to be here. And I bring you greetings from our president, Travis Rutland, who can't be here this morning because he's preaching in Cartersville. And speaking of that, I was watching you. The 31st looks like it's going to be a great day. If I wasn't preaching in Covington, I may show up. But I'll be in Covington that day. And so y'all continue to grow. You've got so many exciting things going. And Pastor Nathan, you're a blessing. You're a blessing to us. You're a blessing to this church and this community. And that's exciting to me. I pastored for some 40 years. For those of you who don't know, I'm Ronnie Brannon. I'm the executive director at Global Servants. I pastored for some 40 years. And so I love it when I go into churches where pastors are involved in the community, making a difference, because... And here's something you'll hear me say, and you've heard me say it time again. The light that shines the furthest shines the brightest at home. Now think about that for a moment. If you've got a lighthouse that is guiding ships way out there, stand next to that light and see how bright it is. And if a church is a lighthouse shining to a community, or to the world rather, then it should shine the brightest in the community in which it resides. And y'all are doing that, and that's exciting. That's exciting. And that yard sale is going to be a trip. I'm glad you got a thrift store next door. That's good. I've done those. Wow. But I bring you greetings not only from Travis and Dr. Mark Rutland, the founder of Global Servants. And by the way, Global Servants will be 50 years old next year. 50 years of ministry. Now, to give you an idea how old I am, I remember when it was pitched as an idea to a group of men in a fellowship hall. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. Dr. Rutland, let's see, Global will be 50. Next year, Dr. Rutland will turn 80. And I'll turn 70. And so it's going to be a momentous occasion for all of us that we've all survived this thing. And I'll be 50. And you'll be 50. There you go. Really? I would not have guessed that. I didn't look that young at 50. Wow. Talk about white. I'm doing some stuff at the Rome Emperor Stadium, and I do like usher and greeting. That's a whole other story. But they had school kids' day. 5,000 children showed up. That was awful. But I ran into these teachers that were kids in my youth group when I was pastoring in Carrollton. And I was talking to one of them. And they said, "You're easy to recognize. You always had white hair." I was like, good. Well, Sawasdee Kap, Sabadi Mai Kap. That is, hello, how are you, in Thai. If you're a female, you would say Sawasdee Ka. A male says Sawasdee Kap. And then your answer would be, Melissa, Sawasdee Kap. Sabadi Mai Kap. Females in their phrases with ka, males in their phrases with kap. Now, if you're really familiar and you want to say, Swati kap, sabadi mai kap, you say, sabadi. It means I'm really good. Is that fair? That's good. In Ghana, you would say, Wahunta Sain. Aye pa. Wahunta Sain is the formal greeting. And the reply is aye pa. And the longer you hold pa, the better you are. In other words, aye pa. I'm okay. Aye pa. I'm good. Now, if you're familiar, if we're friends, the greeting is ete sain. And they do it with gusto. Ete sain. And the response is boko. So let's try that. Ete sain. Ete sain. When I was in Covington, I believe it was, there was a gentleman that I encountered that worked at the local Lowe's, and he was there, and I would see him, and I found out, I asked him about his accent, and he wasn't from Ghana, but he was right next to Ghana, and he knew and was familiar with Tree, and so I would see him down the aisle, and I wouldn't walk up to him. I know it's hard for you to believe that I would holler out in a store. But I would holler down this aisle, Ete sain, and he'd go around the corner and all of a sudden he'd pop, Boko, Boko. I encountered a young lady in Home Depot one time and found out she was from Ghana. And I spoke to her and I said, Wahunta Sain. She just began to cry. She just began to cry. She said, I want to go home. And we got to talking, and she had a coworker. She said, you need to go with me. You see how wonderful. You need to go. And so it's been a wonderful possibility of being a part of those around the world. It's been a blessing to see what's taken place. My first trip to Thailand was in 2001, and it was a space odyssey, and it was an adventure. I had barely been out of the country before. I'd been to Mexico, and it's been a fascinating adventure in my life. But I was there on my first trip, and I guess we had 30, 40 girls at the time. We now house about 105 girls on campus. We've just built a new dorm, as I know you've heard about. As a matter of fact, Steve and I will be going back in July, the end of July, 1st of August, to dedicate that new building. And we'll be able to take in about 50 more girls when all is said and done. We will not do that at one time. That's too much on a staff. But we will be able to grow to that. And our goal is to then have about 140 to 150 girls on campus, as well as girls in the university system. But in 2001, we had about 30-something girls, and there was one little girl that was just running around, just going back and forth in the middle of everything, in the middle of stuff. She's 7, 8 years old. She had lived there for about a year, so she owned the place, and she knew everything about it. And she grew up there. She grew up at House of Grace. And then after she graduated with her bachelor's degree, which as a Hill Tribe girl, the Aka, very few of them go through education. We see to it they get an education. And at Global Servants, we said we will pay for an education as far as you want to go. We've graduated 3 lawyers. We've graduated I don't know how many nurses and teachers. But this little girl has now received her bachelor's degree. And she came back to become staff at House of Grace. And so I'm going to ask you to welcome Miss Melissa. Is this on? And I'll let her say her last name.
สวัสดีค่ะ My name is Melissa Wichathayanont.
See what I mean?
It's my last name. Wichathayanont นะคะ Okay.
She got you. You're good.
Okay. สวัสดีค่ะ Melissa Wichathayanont. It's mean my name is Melissa Wichathayanont. This year you guys say hey y'all like that. Like that, but in Thailand we say สวัสดีค่ะ like this. Okay, let me tell about my story, short story. Before I came to House of Grace, and after I have bachelor degree with psychology. Yeah, social psychology. And then I continue to come back to House of Grace to work with the girl. And then before I came to House of Grace, I with my parents and my older sister and an older brother. One day, I remember one day when my parents went to work and then my older brother and sister go to school. I live at home just by myself. That day, I didn't have some lunch for me, but that day I decided to have rice, water, and sauce mixed together. That's my lunch. But when I came to House of Grace, I have pizza. Yes, spaghetti or KFC, ice cream, everything that I can have before. Yes, that made me happy. And then one good memory that I remember is every Sunday afternoon, all the girls, we have to go to swimming pool, and then yes, we spend time at the pool, maybe 1 or 2 hours. We have so much fun with my friend and all the older sister at there. Yes, make me happy. And then all the time when I came to be a staff at House of Grace, when the team came to House of Grace, I saw all the girls so happy and then enjoy with the team when the team came, and then spend time with the team. All the team came and then have activity with the girl is make the girl so happy and fun. And then I hope someday this shirt came to visit our girl and all the staff at House of Grace. Okay. Yes, everything in my life is better because I came to House of Grace, and then House of Grace saved me for everything. And the most important in my life is I got to know Holy Spirit in me, do everything for me, and then everything for you guys. And then without Him, it's nothing. But in Him, we got everything. Yes, and then, yes, thank you for having us today. It's a great honor to be here in front of you guys, to speak of you guys. And then one thing, when I work at House of Grace, 10 years already now, I save my money, a little bit money with my older brother, and then build a new house for my family. It's a small house, it's not big, but it's safe. Yes, for them. And then I'm so thankful for everything in my life. It's Him still in my life. And then everything is wonderful. I can't imagine to be here and then speak in front of you guys like this, but God's plan is wonderful plan for me and a wonderful plan for you guys. God have everything. And then you guys, promise you guys, when you guys trust Him, believe in Him, obey Him, everything can happen, and then everything is wonderful and beautiful. And then thank you so much.
Stay right here. As I said, Melissa was one of the little girls that was running around. Would you say that you grew up in a Christian home?
Yes.
Your family is Christians?
No. I'm the only one.
The only one.
Yes.
For most of the girls who come to House of Grace, it's the first time they've slept in a bed. Most of them still sleep on bamboo mats, dirt floors, a raised platform. Many of them still have thatch roof huts that they live in, and you've been able to buy and build your mother and father a home.
Yeah.
What a blessing. That she has been a blessing to so many, and what's been exciting for me to watch is this little girl who ran around, who learned what it was to fall in love with Jesus, and now wants to share that love with the girls that are coming in. As a matter of fact, when you get back, there'll be, is it 10 or 15 brand new girls? Mm-hmm. Do you know?
Maybe
15?
Yeah, 15.
There'll be 15 brand new girls that will be coming out of the villages who are at risk, that will now be living at House of Grace. And this is one of those that will meet them and greet them and welcome them and help them navigate what it is to live with 100 sisters. Now think about that a moment. 100 sisters. They don't ever fight. They don't ever argue anything, do you? All right. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you so much.
Let me let you take a look at this. Let's take a look at Thailand.
Darkness is what I think of when I think of a child lost in the terrible tunnel of sex trafficking. Darkness in the minds of those that prey upon her. Darkness in a life that will never find its destiny. Lost in the darkness of depravity and fear and loneliness. And perhaps the darkest thing of all is hopelessness. The feeling that this is my life, this is all it will ever be, and there is no destiny for me. Darkness. That's what Global Servants decided to attack. To us, it seemed like the answer to darkness had to be light. And we stepped in and believed that we could bring the light of God into little lives. This was the one thing that guided us from the very beginning. Big destinies for little girls. We thought it would bring joy and laughter and peace and hope and a family. House of Grace in Thailand and now in Ghana was a place where little girls could be safe, could find out who they were and who God meant them to be. That they could play games and run and be safe in their family, that they would have sisters, hundreds of sisters, and relatives and friends and people in the United States, sponsors that cared for them. It was almost like they were adopted out of darkness and right straight into the light. In fact, I think that's probably as clear a view of House of Grace as I could say, from darkness into light. From sadness, fear, and depression, and hopelessness and despair into the bright light of God's destiny for little girls. This is the one thing I would say to every person who's ever sponsored a girl or given to make sure that House of Grace accomplishes its goal. You are the light of God. You have brought little girls from the darkness of despair into the light of a big destiny.
At House of Grace, what we're dealing with is human trafficking. There was a time in which we didn't ever talk about that, or we didn't have to think about it. It was not even in our vocabulary. But now it's massive. It's a billion-dollar industry in the world today. And we have chosen to try to combat that, but we combat it in a little bit different way. We're not trying to go into brothels and take girls out of the trade and things like this. That's extremely dangerous. And also, you've got to have doctors and nurses and psychiatrists and psychologists all on staff. What we want to do is prevent the scarring from ever taking place. We want to prevent them from ever being damaged. And so we provide a home. And one of the ways that they can come out of that poverty, out of that, is through education. So we see to it that as long as they're in school, they can stay at House of Grace. They can be there. And the way it started was many, many years ago, Dr. Rutland was in Thailand speaking in Bangkok at a conference. And they had spoken one evening, and a pastor drove him to his hotel. And he got to the hotel, and he and the pastor spoke, and the pastor told him, I'll pick you up at 9 o'clock in the morning. We can have breakfast together, and then I'll take you to the next destination for you to speak. And Dr. Rutland agreed, and he went up to his hotel room, went in the room and closed the door, and it was just a matter of minutes. He thought it was the pastor forgot to tell him something. He didn't even bother looking out the little peephole. He didn't look. He just opened the door, and standing there was a man with a little girl with a dog collar around her neck and a chain hooked to it. And he said, for you, guarantee virgin. Just got her, $400 all night. Do what you want. And Dr. Rutland said he looked at her, looked at him, it just, the rage that built up. He just almost didn't know how to speak. And he says, I'm going to call the cops. I'll call the cops. He said, no, I'll dial for you. I'll call. I live here. You don't. Who will they believe? And at that he said, you get away, Farang. I'll have her sold before I get to the end of the hall. And literally pushed him back in the room. Farang means foreigner. Pushed him back in the room and slammed the door. And he was just filled with his rage, and he was just, what in the world? And then he thought, the little girl. And he opened the door and looked, and the hallway was empty. As he will say it to this day, he doesn't know where she is or what happened to her. And he says that face haunts him all of his life. Well, needless to say, that night he didn't sleep. He was angry, he cried, he was frustrated, irritated, didn't know what to do. So at breakfast that next morning, he was talking with the pastor, and he just went on and on. Somebody ought to do something. This is awful. This is terrible. Somebody ought to do something. Why is this taking place? Somebody ought to do something. And finally, the pastor just kind of pushed his plate forward and leaned back, and he said, you somebody. You somebody. And he said those words stuck him like a knife. He said he made it through that trip. He said he just couldn't concentrate, got on the plane coming home. He was upset, cried, frustrated. Somebody on the plane asked him if he was okay. He said, no, I'm in the ministry. In the midst of that, he got home. He shared this with his wife. They cried and they prayed for about a month. And the two of them got on a plane and went back to Thailand. Said, we don't know what to do. We don't know how to do. And they rented a little flat and a little apartment. And they hired a pastor's wife to be the house mother. And they brought in 8 little girls. Judapan, who is now the director of House of Grace, was one of those first little girls. We got to sponsor a family. We got to sponsor a girl, our family did. Her name was Pensy. She was one of those 8 original little girls. He says, to be honest with you, he said, we'll give it a year. I don't see how this is going to work. And now we've been in Thailand for over 35 years. We've seen lawyers, nurses, teachers, as I said, graduate from university. In Thailand, education is not free. For elementary school on through, they have to pay to go to school. We see to it that those fees are paid. In the university system, only a certain number of Hill Tribe people are allowed to go, and only a certain number of females are allowed to go. I'm proud to say at one time we had 20 girls in the university system at one time. That our girls just seem to excel. We guard and protect them as best we can. We love them. We provide for them. Every girl has a sponsor, just one person. So if you as a family, you want to sponsor a girl, you're the only sponsor for that little girl. I'm not saying that any way other people chose to do it is bad or anything like that, but we've chose to build that relationship, and you have a daughter in Thailand. And we write and communicate. We have an advocate who handles the communication and that, Faye Inman on our staff, and she handles all of that. And so we do those things, and we hear the great stories of those who have gone through, and our graduation rate. The other thing that's been fascinating too is that the Thais do not consider the Akha, the Hill Tribe people, to be citizens. They're not citizens of their country. And by not being a citizen, they are not given governmental help in any shape or form. And also in employment, a Hill Tribe person that's not a citizen will never be an employer of a Thai. In other words, they always have to be at the lower end of the spectrum. And one of our lawyers has actually come back, and she spends her time and gives her time to help document these girls and get their citizenship. And it's been exciting to see, and it's a grueling process. We've had one girl, they've been trying to get her citizenship for probably 5, 6, 7 years. And it's always this document or that document. And to one girl, they finally said, you graduate from college, and they didn't use these words, but what they're basically saying, you graduate from college and show your worth being a citizen of Thailand, and we might let you be a citizen. And so that's what they grow up in the midst of. But we have little girls that come from every walk of life. We've got them coming from very destitute situations, starving to death, eating nothing but rice and water, and maybe some salt to flavor it. That in the midst of that, we've seen the stories. We had one little girl when I was there, one of these last times. The government, we have a great relationship with the government. The government actually sent her to us and said, can you keep her for a little while? She had actually watched one of her family members kill another family member with a hammer. And she was 14 years old. She was sent to House of Grace, and she was going to be there. She told them, I plan on being here 2 months, and then I'm leaving, and I've got to try to find a job. I've got to find work. I've got to do something, beg on the streets, if nothing else, to help take care of my younger sister, who we did not have. And we find it all the time. Begging on the streets becomes a very obvious situation. We've had grandparents who take their children out of school and beg on the streets for their opium habit and their drug addiction. They're up in the Golden Triangle, and so drug addiction, crime is huge. Death from AIDS is huge. And so it's just been an ongoing process. But this little girl, while we were there, I got to meet her. And we spent some time with her, and we spent time with the girls. And the last night when we were getting ready to leave, we were having our closing worship service like we always do. And all the team can share if they want to. And then Judapan did something that I'd never seen her do. I've been there some 20 times, and I've never seen her do this. She opened it up for anybody to share. And some of the girls began to share a little bit and talk a little bit. And then we saw Suni raise her hand. And Judapan looked at me. I looked at her. And she came up and she took the microphone. She didn't go into any detail, but she basically said to them, and we found out she's really talented and smart. She came up and she said, I've had some bad things in my life. And I had no intention of staying here. But she said, for the first time, I found a family that loves me and a family that cares about me. And I like school. And I want to be somebody. I want to be somebody. And she's still there. And she's still going to school. And she is somebody. She is somebody. That we've seen the blessings of baptisms. Lord, we've done baptisms. One of the first times we did baptisms, I came over, I was talking to Allah, Judapan's husband, who they are co-directors, and I said, I just feel led to do baptism. And he said, really? He said, I've just spent a month teaching on baptism. I said, let's do it. And so we were going to have church on Sunday, and then Sunday afternoon, he said, we go to a place and we'll do baptisms. And I was like, okay, great. It poured down rain that morning. It rained, monsoon, it just rained. And it was so, the air's so thick anyway, and everything is so hot. And it poured down rain, and Allah, as we were doing church, he said, we can't get there. The van won't make it. Your road will be washed out. We can't get there. And I said, well, okay, well, let's have lunch, and then we'll figure out what to do, and I guess we won't do it. we ate lunch, and while we were eating lunch, the sun came out. Now, when the sun comes out, it'll bake you in a moment. And the sun came out, and it was bright, and it was hot. And you can imagine the steam coming off of bodies and off the ground and off the concrete. Allah comes to me and says, get ready, we go. I said, I thought we couldn't go. I have a different place. I just thank God I was in the truck. I was in the truck and the van behind me, and we headed to this lake, and these vehicles are sliding in this mud, and we're in the mountains of North Thailand. I'm looking off the edge thinking, I'm looking at that poor old van just getting stuck and spinning wheels and sliding. I'm thinking, God, if we don't die, we'll do baptisms. But Lord, if we do die, you know what we were coming for. We got to this lake. We waded out in the lake. And then I hear Judapon say, oh, you Americans, do not play in this water. It's not safe. I'm standing in the water. I said, Judapon. She said, oh, you don't count. And so I began to baptize. God. Melissa, were you there? Do you remember that? We baptized, 30? Something like that. There was a lot. We kept. Well, the problem was I'm standing on this lake, and I'm looking at it. It looked like an eternity pool off that side of that mountain. And I'm watching a storm popping out there, coming at us. And every time I baptized somebody, there was a flash of light. And I thought, I'm going to die. I'm going to stand in this water, and I'm going to die. And there's not a crane big enough to pull me up out of this water up on this bank. Come to find out, what was happening is somebody was taking pictures. Every time I baptized somebody, as I was looking down, there was a flash of light, and it was the camera. I thought it was lightning. Oh, they just thought that was hilarious. They laughed and they laughed. We've got girls now who they get together and they go back to their villages and evangelize, share the good news of the gospel with their families and their friends. They've even taken mission trips over into Laos to share with the Hill Tribe people in there. They become evangelistic messengers throughout northern Thailand and into other countries. As I said, we've just built a new dorm. Our introduction was Nathan called me, back in 2020, I guess, 2021. And we had done a big Giving Tuesday event, and we were doing equipment for a new kitchen. The kitchen they had, the dogs just kind of walk through. It's open. And you can imagine cooking for 100 girls. And Pastor Nathan said, what can we do to help? What we want to help. We got to talking about it, and so we bought equipment. I'm here to tell you that the foundation for that kitchen has now been done. The walls are going up as we speak. We're hoping that by the time we get there, it'll be near complete. There will be new industrial appliances because of you, for them to be able to cook. You've made that possible. They will have new appliances where they can learn to cook. Many of the girls want to leave. Once they graduate, they want to go and start their own business as a bakery. Coffee has become a big industry for their cause, and Thai coffee is huge. And we actually have an alumni who got married. They bought the property behind House of Grace, and they have a big coffee factory. And they continue to reach out to the community. And so we see that work going on in marvelous ways because of people like you. And then we're also in Ghana, West Africa. And so I want you to take a look at this one.
Only the power of God could connect my living room in the United States with a small village outside of Kumasi, Ghana. There in my living room in early 1981, I had what I suppose would be called a vision. And in that vision, I saw myself preaching, standing up to a tree, and around me were hundreds and hundreds of African people. And beside me was a man ready to interpret when I preached. I saw his face as clearly as you can see mine right now. It never dawned on me that I would see that exact face in Santasi. On my first trip to Ghana in 1981, which was a supernatural trip all the way around. And I know many of you have read about it in my book, Launch Out into the Deep. On that trip, so many wonderful things happened. But finally, they brought me to this village of Santasi to speak to a fellowship. Hundreds of people were supposed to be here. When I got here to this elementary school, it looked just like this. It was empty. And I said, oh, nobody came. They said, no, there are so many people, we couldn't get them in the school. We've gone down to the cocoa grove. So we wound down the side of the hill into the cocoa grove, and I stood at the roots of a tree to preach. And there, at the roots of that tree, God changed my life. And he changed the future and the direction of Global Servants forever. And so I came here to the roots of the tree. And they said, go ahead and preach. Your interpreter will join you. And I turned, and there he stood. There was the man that I had seen in my living room in the United States. And he said,
I'm ready to help you when you are ready.
and help me he has, and helped thousands of people in West Africa. Sammy O'Donnell, our West Africa director. Look what God has done from this humble beginning.
When I first stood by you, I didn't know what to expect. But we thank God for the miracle that out of that time, so much has happened.
It is a miracle.
It is.
Churches in 5 countries, a large school, so many things. All the work we did in prisons and in police stations and fire stations. It's really a miracle.
It is.
And now to turn the work over to your son Daniel and my son Travis, and see the work of Global Servants in West Africa and worldwide go forward in a whole new generation. Thank you for that wonderful day, Sammy, and we thank God.
Thank you for allowing me to be part of it. Yes, sorry.
That was the original picture that they did not know was taken, and some years later somebody presented that to them. That our work in Africa has been widespread. We have some 50 churches in 5 countries in West Africa that Sammy has helped initiate and be a part of, and now his son Dan is the director. We dig wells and build sanitation stations, which are chemical outhouses. We do all kinds of things there. We have a school of some 500 plus students in the Anwamaso area near Kumasi. We're based near Kumasi in Anwamaso, and we've seen that. I've had the privilege of going there many times, and one of my churches actually built a church in Ghana. I was the pastor at Prospect Methodist Church in Covington, and we built a church. It's called Prospect Ghana. Pastor Peter, who was the original pastor there, I remember being with him in an outdoor crusade in the village of Duwasi, and he said, on that hill, we're going to build a church. And we did an outdoor crusade that night, and I wish I could tell you the growth and everything in that area. One of those buildings that you will see was the church that we built there. It's become one of the crown jewels. It continues to grow. It's begun bigger. The community has expanded. The population has exploded. Growth, the buildings, everything. That hillside, that empty hill where he was going to build a church is now in the center of a booming metropolis, basically. And Pastor Peter is still there. He has one son who's now a doctor, another who's into electronics and things like that, and another one who's finishing up school, and it's been exciting to see. As I said, we've dug wells and all like that. We were in one village, a gentleman that was with me, one of the co-workers, Tyler and I, we were traveling up in the north, and we came to a village called Bimsi. And we came to school. The pastor we had one of our churches there, and he said, we've built a school. This is where they've been meeting. And it was a clay hut with 3 rooms. It had a tin roof on it. And in Africa, a tin roof on a clay hut is called an oven. In one of the rooms, they had busted out the wall so that the only opening had been the door. They busted a hole in the wall so the air could go through there. But the pastor said, let me show you what we've done. And the pastor and that church had gone around on the backside of the property and built a block building. The only thing that we helped with was tin on the roof. And he showed us this 4 classroom building that had windows in it had ways for air to move, all like that. We put the tent on that roof. And he says, but we don't have water. And he pointed and he said, you see those power lines? There's some governmental power lines that stretch out. And about 5 miles as the crow flies, it says that's where the river is. And it says when it's really bad and everything, we will take the students and we will do school on the banks of the river so they have access to water. That's where they draw water and bring it home. They walk over 5 miles to gather water to bring home. And no telling what condition that water is in. And so we just took it on, and I shared with a gentleman. I come back, and I was at a restaurant with one of our donors and stuff, and we began to share the story. He wanted to know how the trip was, and I was telling him about BIMSI and that we want to dig a well, and we want to do that. He said, well, how much did it cost? I said, well, we don't know right now. I said, it depends on how far it is, the equipment we get there, but we're saying somewhere around $12,000 at the time. We're not doing that amount now, are we, Steve? $10,000 now. Because we never know how deep, we don't know what. Anyway, he said, he left the table, came back, and he says, this will get you started. Let's get them some water. And handed me a check for $7,000 right there. And we got started. We called, one of the things I love, we don't have to have committee meetings. We called Sammy and said, we've got this, find out what it's going to take to dig a well, get a well in that village. The next thing we knew, they went up there, they drilled a well, they got water faster and not as deep as they thought they were going to have to go. There was enough money left that they built 2 sanitation stations, which are chemical outhouses for the boys and the girls. And then there was enough money left that they were able to bring electricity into that village for the first time ever, so that every classroom has a light bulb and has an outlet that they can plug a fan into. So the air is moving for them. So in one $7,000 check basically took a village from the edge of the Stone Age and gave them water, sanitation, and electricity. It's been absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. We get a report and said because of what we've been doing, we got a report from them that said that because of the work that we've done, we have drastically reduced deaths by disease. Because of clean water and sanitation, the death by disease. He said the other thing is we've greatly reduced death by big cat attack and snake bite. Huh? I'm like, really? What? He said this way they're not walking out in the jungle in the night to go to the bathroom and get snake bit and die. They're not walking out into the jungle in the middle of the night in a big cat attack. They've also had big cats attack in the village for various reasons and things like that. But because these are chemical outhouses, they're not wandering in the village, but the chemicals kill the smell of blood, they kill the smell of anything like that. And so big cats that can smell blood like 3 miles away, they're not smelling that, they're not coming. And we've greatly reduced deaths. Steve and I had the privilege of being in, was that November a year ago? Last November. Time is flying so fast. We were there last November, and we had the privilege to go to a village called Tebeso. And it was south of Kumasi. We go to Tebeso, and they're going to drill a well. And we're going to go see it from start to finish. We got there, and they knew we were coming, and they had makeshift tents set up. They had chairs set up. They had a sound system set up. And I'm like, what is this? And people had gathered. They've gathered to watch. They wanted to see water come. And about that time, the trucks pulled in, and how the truck got back there, I'm still amazed. That big old truck. And they began to drill this well. They even let me be a part. I said, how do they know to drill here? They used the old divining rods. They took 2 pieces of metal, and I held it, and you walk around, and when you got over water, it would do this. No, that can't be. He said, don't hold it too tight. And it's shaped like this. There's an L shape, and you're holding here. And that metal will move. And he said, we dig here. 8 hours later, we were hoping it would be like an oil well. Water would fly. Nope. All of a sudden, mud started coming. Then there was water. being pulled up. And now you saw the picture of them pumping wells. There's many of those that we've done. Now we've got pumps that we drop down into these wells, and we run electricity to it. They stole electricity from a man's house to hook this up to get it running. They already had the tank in place, and by the time we left there was water running from a spigot filling that tank up. And I'll never forget it. One little older lady took a water bottle, plastic water bottle, did that, and then just started. They began to cheer and scream and holler. They're splashing water on each other, drinking water just immediately. It was such a thrill for them to know that they were going to have water. That village has some 40,000 people. That's a village, isn't it? When I think of a village, I'm thinking here, we a village. No, 40,000 people. And one of the other things we've found that in the villages where Muslims have built a well, only practicing Muslims in good standing are allowed to use that well. We open the well to anybody and everybody. Also, when their wells break, nobody comes to fix it. And that's kind of what had happened in this village. But they know that our pastor will oversee that. Anything that happens, we see to it that it gets fixed. And they now have fresh water in the village of Tebeso. And we've been able to do that. It's been exciting, and we got to see it happen. The House of Grace there is just about 10 years old, and I happened to be on site when our first group of 8 girls came. Malnourished, tiny. All of them were orphans. All of them were terrified. I was there. One of those who is now graduated from high school, we've got our first high school graduates that are going on to university. One of the first girls that graduated had come back to see me on this last trip. Her name's Gifty. And she wanted to see me and talk to me. When I went that first time, I gave them gifts. And she came to me and she said, I still have present you gave me. And she said, I wanted to tell you, you were the first white man I ever met. You were the first white man I ever saw. And it just blew my mind. And I think about, you see how big I am, and this tiny little girl must have been absolutely terrified. I looked like a polar bear to her. That in the midst of that, we've watched them grow up. We've just finished a brand new dorm there about 2 years ago. We have some 35 girls there. That's our capacity right now. We have the school on campus right there. But now we have our first set of high school graduates going on to university. And so at House of Grace in Thailand, not all, but almost all of our staff grew up at House of Grace. We don't have that in Ghana yet because they're not old enough, but they will be soon. And we're wanting them to come back and to work and to share and to love on these little girls. But you talk about, Melissa talked about liking ice cream. Miss Comfort, who is Sammy's wife, was our first house director, and it was first set of girls, and she said it was very, my report came back and said, this will not last, this is not going to work. Because those 8 little girls, none of them spoke the same language, and none of them spoke the language of the director. Comfort said it took 2 months for them to learn eat. Now think about it. They come from villages in northern Africa, in northern Ghana, in West Africa, on the edge of the Sahara, and they do not have electricity, they don't have water, they don't have any of that stuff, and now they're living, and Comfort took them to an ice cream shop to get ice cream. And they touched that cup, and it was cold. They had never touched cold before. They'd never seen cold before. They didn't have refrigerators, they didn't have that stuff. They touched that cup, and they wouldn't do it. Comfort said, finally, she went on and she kept trying to show them. So finally, one of the bigger girls got one of the little girls in a headlock and took ice cream and shoved it in her mouth. And when they saw that she didn't die and that she liked it, they all ate it and they all love ice cream now. Also, coming to us, we know who our girls are in Africa in the school system because they were malnourished, they were tiny. Our girls get 3 meals a day and they're hefty. They're well fed and they like it. And it's just been a fascinating adventure. They too really like pizza. They too, I've never seen anything like it in Thailand. They love KFC. It's just wonderful. And the coconut ice cream there in Thailand is unbelievable. Well, let me get toward the end of this. Here's the thing. You are the ones to make the difference. You are valuable. You are important. You make the difference. Sure, not everyone can go, but you can make the difference. I came across this not too long ago, and I shared this to a graduating class yesterday. How many of you know who Edward Kimball is? Yeah, me neither. Me neither. Never heard of him. Edward Kimball was a Sunday school teacher way back when. And he was a Sunday school teacher of young boys. Imagine that. He had young boys, but the desire of his heart was that they receive Christ, that they grow up to be men of God. And he loved them. And he said there was one that was just a rounder and he just didn't know what to do with him. And finally, one Saturday, this boy was working in a shoe store, and he was one of the clerks there. He went to see him and said, "Can I talk to you?" And they went into the back closet, back where they store the little storage area. And he talked with him. And that young boy back in that closet prayed to receive Christ. His name was D.L. Moody. D.L. Moody prayed to receive Christ because a Sunday school teacher didn't quit. A Sunday school teacher didn't give up on him. And he prayed to receive Christ. And D.L. Moody then impacted 2 continents with the gospel of Jesus Christ, was a huge evangelist. The Moody Bible Institute is the lineage of D.L. Moody. D.L. Moody touched, as I said, 2 continents. And under his ministry, a man named Wilbur Chapman prayed to receive Christ. And he too became an evangelist. Chapman, in one of his great crusades, was preaching, and there was a professional baseball player in that meeting that night. And his name was Billy Sunday. And he prayed to receive Christ. And he fell in love with God, and God touched his heart and his life. He quit baseball and became an evangelist himself. He was actually working with Chapman, but when Chapman took on the pastorate, he became the evangelist. And he traveled around. They said, Billy Sunday said, when Billy Sunday was in town, they said there were places where factories would close to come hear him. They would close factories and things like that. And they said, the preachers were the one that got upset with him. They said, "We ain't never done it like this." They said it was nothing for Billy Sunday to start his crusade at night by running from off stage and sliding into the pulpit, holler, "Safe." And then he would proclaim the good news of the gospel. And while he was preaching, there was the gentleman named Mordecai Ham who prayed to receive Christ under Billy Sunday's ministry. And then one day, Mordecai Ham became an evangelist. As he watched Billy Sunday, he then moved on to ministry himself. And he was preaching a crusade in North Carolina one night. And there were 2 boys who had come, and the place was packed. And they thought, "I'm not getting in the middle of this." They were getting ready to leave, and an usher noticed them and said, "No, come on, boys. I'll find you a place." And that night, Billy Graham prayed to receive Christ. A farm boy prayed to receive Christ. And it is said that Billy Graham has preached the gospel to more people than anybody ever. He's preached the gospel to more people than the Apostle Paul. Who's Edward Kimball? Edward Kimball is a man that made a difference in somebody's life. And there's no telling. When you give, when you bless, when you pray for, when you love, when you serve, when you reach out, you may not have any idea who's around you, but you may make a difference for generations to come. Let me close with these 2 stories. In Ghana, we were there, and I was with Sammy, and the team had left. Sammy and I had gone over to Togo. We came back. We were killing time in Accra, the capital. It's hot. And we're killing time, and we're just waiting for my plane. And he says, "My sister needs a freezer. Do you mind?" I said, "No, we've got time. Let's do it." We parked some 6 blocks away. He said, we cannot drive down there. Too many people, too crowded. We'll never get out. And he said, we'll be late to the plane. I said, we're not going to be late to the plane. So we go looking, and he finds this freezer. It's not a big upright freezer. It was a small freezer like this. The box was about the size of a washing machine box. And then it hit me. How are we going to get this back to the truck? We're a good 6 blocks away. It's hot. I'm already sweating. We're going to carry this thing 6 blocks, and then I'm going to get on an airplane hot and sweaty and have to fly for 10 hours. Are you kidding me? So I, being naive, I said, Sammy, how do we get this to the truck? Oh, they take care of. I do not see a cart. I do not see a hand truck. I do not see anything. About that time, this girl walks up. They take a towel and make a little circle on her head. And 2 men pick that up and put that freezer on her head. Now, they carry everything on their head. I've seen women walking down the road with logs on their head, pots and pans stacked up on their head. But a freezer, they put that freezer on this girl's head, and she by herself walked 6 blocks with that, and then we lowered it off into the back of the truck. And I'm like, what, Sammy? I'm behind her. I said, what is this? What? He said, oh, she's a carrier. I said, a carrier? He said, yeah, she's from the north. She came to the capital city to find a living. She has no education, and so all she'll ever do is carry. She carries stuff. She has no education. She probably has 3 or 4 children. She lives on the streets, and she doesn't know who the daddies are. She carries. This is why we do what we do. So they get an education. They get an education. When our girls graduate high school, they'll speak their tribal language. They'll speak Tree, which is the language of that region of the school. They'll speak English, and many of them will speak French because every country around them speaks French. In Thailand, as I said, we sponsored a little girl named Pensy. And on one of my trips, I had talked with her on the phone. Judapan says, Pensy is coming to see you. I said, what? He said, yes, Saturday. Well, we did a field day and played games, and we wore them out. It's hot. I keep looking over my shoulder. Where is she? All day, I'm looking for her. Not there. We played all day. We rested. We had dinner. And then after dinner, the little girls wanted to go watch their favorite movie, Annie, in English, in the day room. In those days, we didn't have any air conditioners on campus. We had fans. And the only cool place I could find was the tile floor. And so I laid across that tile floor where they decided I made a good sofa. So I got bodies laying on me. It's hot. And about that time, Rosemary, Dr. Rutland's daughter, who's the director, comes to me and says, she's here. She calls me Uncle Ronnie, so now they all call me Uncle Ronnie. Says, Uncle Ronnie, she's here. I said, what? She said, wait a minute. I don't want you to get your feelings hurt. You're a hugger and a crier, and she's not going to do any of those. Said, I'm fine. You're not going to be fine. I said, I'm fine. Get out of the way. Where is she? She said, now look, she's going to greet you, Swadika, and that's going to be it. And then you can try to talk to her. Now, Pensy had graduated from the university. She was teaching in the school system on the Burmese border. Come to find out, she had gone 10 hours by motorbike and bus to come see me. So I make my way into the room, and she kind of does what Rosemary says. She bows, but she doesn't drop her head. She's looking. Swadika. I didn't know what to say. I just did this. And the next thing I know is that little girl buried her head in my chest, crying, and looks up at me, and in her first words to me in English were, "Oh, Father, you make my life possible." You see, she teaches English in a Karen village. She now teaches in the school system in Chiang Rai, where we are. She's done so well they've actually sent her to Australia for further training to train teachers. You don't know who they are. You don't know who they might be. And when you become a part of Global Servants, you make a difference because you are valuable, you are important, and you are a blessing. So let's pray together. Don't worry about that last video. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for your love, your mercy, your grace, your presence. Lord, I just ask that you would surround us now in the wonder of your mercy. Father, speak to our hearts and our lives right here where we are. Give us the courage to seek you in all things. For your word in Proverbs says, like cold water to a thirsty soul is good news from a foreign land, from a far country. Father, I thank you for this good news. And I thank you for the refreshment that it brings into our lives. And I thank you for your goodness and your grace. Father, surround us now in the wonder of all that you are. For we ask it in Jesus' holy, precious, and powerful name. And all the children of the King said, amen. As we finish, and Pastor Nathan will conclude, if you'll put that slide up, the donation slide. If you'd like to make a donation, you can use that QR code and you can have access to Global Servants. But I invite you to stop by the table. Remember that if you fill that card out, you can pick up a book. And please look at the materials and all that are there. And we thank you. I'm mainly here to say thank you for the blessing you are and the difference that you make. God bless you.